So that was definitely a direct. I'm recording this directly after the direct finished, so I'm kind of trying to get some prices online while I'm doing this. And so far, the only thing I see is that you can pre-order Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Switch standalone digitally for $40. I'm guessing Super Mario Galaxy 2 is going to be the same price, maybe. So it might be one of those situations where if you buy them separately, it would be $40 each, but if you buy them together, that full package might be $70. But that also means that if somebody does want to own a physical copy of Super Mario Galaxy 2, they're going to have to buy Super Mario Galaxy 1 as well. Which means if you own 3D All-Stars and you want physical everything, you're going to be having 2 copies of Super Mario Galaxy for the Nintendo Switch. And it is not a Switch 2 exclusive. So despite the fact that Galaxy is hype, and I think a lot of people are very excited for Galaxy 2 specifically coming to the Nintendo Switch, this doesn't really do anything for the Switch 2. I actually kind of predicted some of this, but I expected Mario Sunshine to be coming on the Nintendo Switch Online. I wasn't expecting Galaxy 2, but I guess it ties in with the movie, which they briefly showed in this direct as well. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let's kind of run through this. So 66 minutes is what I saw this whole thing. I think it was closer to like 66 and a half minutes. The first 20 minutes alone was the Super Mario Bros. 40th Anniversary Direct. The first 8 minutes of that alone was covering the museum, the movie, and the marathon. You know, the quick stuff you want to just get out of the way. After that was the Galaxy 1 and 2 announcement. That was probably the most hyped moment of the Direct, I think, for most people. They wanted to see Galaxy 2, and now it's on the Switch, finally. And actually, as I'm recording this yet, Galaxy 2 is up on the pre-order as well for $40. And the big added bonus here for this whole package is extra pages for Rosalina's storybook, and you can buy a physical version of that. Cool. Aside from that, the big brand new Nintendo Switch 2 3D Mario game that's coming out for the 40th anniversary is going to be Mario Tennis Fever. Now, I love Mario Tennis. This looks like it was just built off of the Tennis Aces engine, which I guess was also built off of the Wii U one. But that being said, I initially thought this was going to be a Switch 2 edition of Mario Tennis Aces. It looks very much like it took that game and just built off of it. For me, that's a great announcement. If I had a Switch 2, I'd be very excited for it, but I'm also like a massive Mario Tennis fan. I'm not sure if it'll be as popular with everybody as it is for me. And then for the 2D Mario, you got the Switch 2 edition for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which I think many people expected, and it seems like that added bonus $20 purchase is going to give you a extended multiplayer mode, I think, based off of what it looked like. But effectively, if you want to play an enhanced version with the enhanced visuals and better performing Switch 2 version of Super Mario Wonder, you're going to have to spend $80, which obviously is in line with Kirby and the Forgotten Land as well. We can have another philosophical discussion on whether or not this is considered DLC later. But I think this kind of confirms everything that I have been saying up until this point. If a game received a free update from Nintendo, you can pretty much expect that there will not be a similar game or a Switch 2 edition version of that game. So going into this, a lot of people were not expecting a 3D Mario because of Donkey Kong Bonanza. For me, I wasn't expecting a 3D Mario because I think Mario Odyssey is what they're pushing to be that 3D Mario title, at least for the first, I don't know, few years of the Switch 2's life. They gave it a free update, as well as 3D World, actually. Both those games got their free updates. They run better, they look better, and those are going to be the current flagship 3D Mario titles for the near future. If you notice, something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for example, never got any free updates, never got any performance enhancements because there's a sequel. And likewise, Mario Tennis, for example, is not going to be getting any enhancements for the Switch 1 version because there's a sequel. Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe got the update, Super Mario Wonder didn't, and that's because there's a Switch 2 edition coming out. So I think it's fair to assume that if a game does not get any updates, there's a decent chance if you're going to want to play it enhanced, it's going to have to be a Switch 2 edition, or it's not going to get enhanced at all because a sequel might come out. Aside from that, there is the announcement of a new Yoshi game, which, just like Tennis, is cool, but I mean, let's be real, these aren't the games that are going to get people to go out and buy the Switch 2. And quite frankly, I think Mario, 3D Mario in general, was going to be the biggest push to get more people to buy into the console before the holiday season, and I just don't see that incentive, especially because Galaxy 2 is a Switch 1 game. Well, it's a Wii game coming out on the Switch 1. Speaking of which, check out my 4-hour-long Galaxy 2 retrospective over on my alternate channel, as well as my retrospectives on Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, and 64DS even. Anyway, so that covers the first 1/3 of the entirety of the Direct. Some notable things that are missing here: there was nothing mentioned for Mario Kart World, no free updates, no DLC, paid or otherwise, and we'll talk more about paid DLC later. So remember that $80 that everybody was kind of marching about, how it's a game that's worth $80 because it's going to be getting a lot of updates and they expect stuff before the end of the year. This probably means there's not going to be anything coming for Mario Kart World yet. And of course not, because it's an $80 title and already sold very well. But there are games that were not $80 that have paid DLC already. But we'll get to that. From the 20th minute to like the 26th minute, it was all of this Switch 1 stuff, some Switch 1 plus Switch 2 stuff. Nothing really jaw-dropping, nothing insanely exclusive. Around the halfway point, some amiibos for Kirby Air Riders were discussed, and Sakurai is going to be doing another Direct. I love that man's passion. I cannot believe they're going to let him do another Direct, though, for Air Riders, of all things. Next, we have Hyrule Warriors. Turns out that actually is going to come out this year, November 6th. And it will be priced at $70. We got a brief look at some Dragon Quest stuff, an important announcement of an update for the Today app. And then at the 38th minute, while all of us were holding our breath to see Nintendo DS or the Nintendo Wii make it to the Nintendo Classics, instead we got the Virtual Boy. Cool, I guess? I wonder if they're just going to release the entirety of that library at once or drip feed it. I'm also really wondering what that Virtual Boy accessory is going to cost. Something tells me it's probably going to be very pricey. I'm guessing $100. We'll see. This won't be coming till the Nintendo Switch Online until February, and it will be available for the Switch 1 as well. There's more third-party stuff sprinkled in between this. The usual ports, nothing that is crazy that we haven't really announced yet. At the 44th minute mark, you finally get to the Metroid stuff. It's a quick trailer. The game is going to be coming out in December. Obviously, it's going to be Switch 1 and Switch 2. And out of fear of sounding like a hater here, I genuinely thought this looked bad, which is weird because I've been thinking it looked good up until this point. I don't think it actually looked that awful. It's just when they were going through the open world and they panned out and everything just looked so empty. I don't know, dude. Maybe after watching all of these different third-party games, because I've been doing research for the Switch 2 videos, somehow it's making this one look worse. But I'm still excited because it's a Metroid game, so I know it's going to be fun. But I definitely thought it looked better when I saw it prior to this Direct. Also, it looks like it's officially confirmed that it will be $70 on their website, which means the Switch 1 version stays at $60, thankfully. Then again, with the way that things are moving, there's a very likely chance this is going to have some kind of paid DLC, maybe even with the launch of the game. Because that was the next announcement, Donkey Kong Bonanza, a game that just came out, the flagship title of the Nintendo Switch 2, if you will, already has paid DLC. It seems like they turned it into a roguelike of some sort. And, the DLC is $20, by the way. So currently the full package for Donkey Kong Bonanza is $90. Yeah, I'm kind of glad I don't have a Switch 2 right now. But if you're somebody who was wondering why would they only charge $70 for Donkey Kong and $80 for Mario Kart World, well, it's because it seems like the $70 games are going to be having DLC immediately. And you know, this wouldn't be so bad if it was like the rest of the industry and the Nintendo first-party games would get a price drop eventually, because then you can just sucker out the people that want to be early adopters. But given Breath of the Wild is currently $90 for the full package, even though that game is a launch title for the last-gen Switch, I don't anticipate anybody paying less than $90 for the Bonanza experience in full anytime soon. Speaking of which, quickly backtracking a bit, but Galaxy 1 plus Galaxy 2 physical edition now has the combined package price of $70. So you can either buy each game separately at $40 a piece, or you get the combination together at $70. If you're somebody that already owns 3D All-Stars, you're looking at an additional $40 in addition to that $60 you already spent in order to make it $100 for the full 3D Mario experience up to that point in the franchise, not including 64DS, of course, and also 3D Land is nowhere to be seen. If you're somebody that does not own 3D All-Stars, you can buy Galaxy 1 and 2 together for $70. If you're somebody that only wants physical copies, you're gonna need to spend an additional $70 to make sure you have Galaxy 2. Oh, this is just ugly no matter how you look at it. On 3D All-Stars, the games were $20 a piece, and people were enraged by that. Right now, they're saying Galaxy 1 and Galaxy 2 are each worth $40. And the best part is they didn't even add Sunshine to Nintendo Switch Online. So still, if you're somebody that missed out on 3D All-Stars, you can't play Sunshine on the Switch. And you wonder why they're shutting down all these emulator sites. I don't condone this per se, but the fact that Galaxy 2 is a Nintendo Switch 1 title means it's going to be pirated the hell out of. Not even for emulation. I think most people that want to emulate Galaxy 2 on their PCs already do that. I mean, on the original Nintendo Switch, a lot of people are going to be downloading this game and just keeping it on there. I just don't anticipate that many people willing to spend $40 on this. Beyond that, there's a mid-Pokemon Ditto game. I guess it's cute, it's just not really my thing. Pokemon Legends ZA got another trailer. We'll have to see how that goes. It's going to be bundled in with the console, but it's also going to be a Switch 1 edition game, and I don't know where the heads of the Pokemon fans are at this point. A lot of them have shown they're okay with mediocre quality games, and in that regard, that might mean that they're willing completely to play this game on the Switch 1, but I also imagine that a lot of people are going to be buying that bundle on the Switch 2, because that's their time to jump into the new console. I guess we'll have to see how those sales actually do. I'm guessing they're going to move a lot more units in Japan with that bundle, but we'll see. And of course, there's going to be paid DLC day one for that as well. Yeah. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the DLC that comes out on day one for Pokemon Legends ZA is $30. Variable pricing. Wow. Can we consider this the first $100 Pokemon game yet? Or are we gonna wait until the next one is just priced $100 without an option of the DLC? The full Pokemon Legends ZA experience on day one with the console launch is going to be $100. I don't think we've seen a $30 DLC on a Nintendo console yet to this point. I could be wrong about that. Also, what happened to the whole thing where it's like if you're subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online, some of these end up being free or discounted? That's just out the window, I guess. But damn, this is absolutely highway robbery. But hey, if it makes you happy and you like spending money on Pokemon games, wow. The fact that the Palworld stuff is all going on in the background too just makes this... Oh man, I have to gather my thoughts on this. This might get its own video later. We'll see. Hey, Dynasty Warriors threw their hat in the mix too. They're also going to be offering a day one DLC. Although in fairness, that's not Pokemon, so it'll be on discount pretty quickly after that. I won't throw them in the same hate train as I will with Nintendo for this because they don't drop their prices and it makes things worse. Then you got Monster Hunters. Not really a Switch 2 exclusive, but cool for the fans of that series that want to play it on Switch 2, I guess. Same with Resident Evil 9. It actually looks sick as heck, but I will not be playing it on the Switch 2. I would rather play it on something stronger. And the big final announcement was Fire Emblem. I'm not a Fire Emblem guy. I know there's a massive fandom there, so I'm assuming there's like applause and celebrations for that. I think altogether, all of the Fire Emblem games sold less than 7 million units on the Switch 1, with Three Houses carrying most of that. So while there will be a lot of people very excited for that, I don't know how big of a system seller it is. Like, I'm pretty sure Mario Tennis Aces on the Switch 1 outsold that, so if anything, Mario Tennis Fever might be a bigger system seller than Fire Emblem. But yeah, that was definitely a direct. I kind of glossed over a lot of the third-party titles. There are some good games that are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2, but I just don't think they're going to be performing well enough on the Switch 2 for the most part. Some of them might. And then for the most part, they're also not going to be selling very well on the Switch 2. I just don't feel like they're really worth the discussion here. They're important, but they're not the reason the Switch 2 will move units. And obviously, a lot of you will tell me that doesn't matter. The Switch 2 has already moved enough units. It doesn't need to move anymore. But right now, based off of what I'm seeing, the biggest exclusive game, the biggest reason somebody would buy a Switch 2 to play games that they can't play anywhere else is Kirby Air Riders, maybe? Or Hyrule Warriors, but I think Kirby might be a bigger draw at that point, and I just don't think Kirby Air Riders is going to be the reason people buy a Switch 2. So it's going to be very interesting going into the holidays, and this kind of all but confirms that everything we saw going into the initial Direct from April 4th was basically all Nintendo was riding on through the end of the year. There's a massive narrative going around that that's enough, and it was always fine, and we've never needed anything more. But in between all of those people that are trying to make it seem like this is okay are a whole lot of people who are regretting the purchase of their Switch 2, a whole lot of people that were expecting more, a lot of people that were expecting updates and DLC for Mario Kart World that they're not getting. And just so many people out there that were expecting massive announcements for the Switch 2 that have been disappointed up until this point in time. Those were a lot of the reasons why many people were willing to spend the price. Those were a lot of the reasons why many people bought in early. Now, you can argue it's not Nintendo's fault that those people set their own expectations, but those people are regretting their purchase. And many people that still have not bought into the Switch 2 might have been looking for that reason to jump in. And I just don't think anything we saw here today will get people to jump in, and especially won't get them to jump in before the end of this year. Because at this point in time, all of the new announcements that we saw that might draw people into the Nintendo Switch 2 are all 2026 and beyond titles. So if somebody did not buy it already and they were not intending on getting it anytime soon because they wanted to see what the Switch 2 was going to offer prior to the end of the year, they have zero incentive. This holiday season is going to be very interesting. And look, I don't know how they did it, but somehow this Direct is worse than almost every other Direct earlier this year. Mario Galaxy 2 was the biggest announcement, and that might be enough for most people. And I would understand if it is, because, 3D Mario, it's always the best. But Mario Galaxy 2 is going to be available on the Nintendo Switch 1. Mario Galaxy 2 is already a game that many people could emulate, and Mario Galaxy 2 is a Wii title. And come to think of it, speaking of Mario, they didn't even bring back Mario 35 as Mario 40. I thought that's how they were starting up the whole presentation. I thought that was a tap-in, guaranteed people subscribing to Nintendo Switch Online, and wow, that was such a bad Direct now that I think about it. Now, mind you, I haven't even gone online and started scrolling through the forums and looking at people's reactions, but I feel like I can already see the comments, and I feel like it's already going to be overwhelmingly negative with minor pockets of people here and there saying that everything is fine. I guess we'll see. I kind of want to upload this video to see how well it does with the reflection of the industry later. That way these are my authentic thoughts and they're not thoughts that are just being shifted by what other people are saying online. Oh, I uploaded a prediction last night. Let me see how well that did. Because let me tell you, I saw some wild bingo cards going into this Direct, and almost nothing on those bingo cards made it out to the Switch 2 actual Direct. And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed by what we saw today. Especially because this whole thing has been dangling in front of people's faces for the past few months, right? It's been since the Switch 2's April Direct. They said that they're going to get something right when the Switch 2 launches, because that's going to be E3 time. And then nothing happens. And then eventually you get the partner Direct, you get the indie Direct, you get all these game specific Directs, and people were just really waiting for this one. Oh man, maybe I'm not being enraged enough. I have a very big feeling there's going to be a lot worse videos about this Direct than what I'm uploading. I'm actually excited to wrap this one up and see what people are thinking. As far as my predictions go, however, I said mostly third-party focused. I think it was closer to maybe 1/3 of it was third-party. But actually, I didn't even see as big of a push for some major third-party titles as I thought I would. I guess Resident Evil was one of the big ones, and there was also Final Fantasy VII, so I guess there was a decent push. Ample time spent on Metroid Prime 4. I was actually completely wrong about that. The release date was finally set. More time spent on Hyrule Warriors, Splatoon, Kirby Air Riders, and whatever other games we already know are coming this winter. Brief amount of time. I guess not as much as I expected. I thought they would be doing that a lot of filler. Although I guess Pokemon did get a lot of attention. Mario movie, theme parks, random gizmos, collectibles. Yeah, I was on the money for that one, and that was a decent 10 minutes of the presentation too. Some kind of 99 game akin to Mario Bros 40, basically Mario Bros 35 done again, but nope, I was wrong about that. Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder. That game never got a free update, so it's likely going to get a Switch 2 edition. I was right about that, but I was wrong because I said maybe Mario Maker Switch 2 edition would come as well with mouse controls. There's nothing about Mario Maker or Mario Maker 3D. I remember there were so many predictions going into this one that just people were way off on. Mario Sunshine for GameCube? Nope, I was wrong about that. Instead, people got Mario Galaxy 2 for $40. And then, my bonus wild announcement prediction was that the Switch 2 would get a price drop in the Western market, and somehow they actually kicked people in the groin and just found more absurd ways to charge people money on stuff they've already paid for. Yeah, that was a bad Direct, guys. It's a good thing for Nintendo that a lot of people bought in on this console very early, because that initial best-selling console hype facade, because they had a lot of stockpiled units ready to go, might actually be Nintendo's only saving grace going into the winter season, where people think that this thing is just very popular across the board. But I don't know, man. I don't think it's looking very good right now. And I already thought it wasn't looking good, and I already thought sales and hype and all that stuff was dwindling away, and there are numbers to back up everything that I've been saying up until this point. And this Direct was, in my mind, the only thing that could have shifted the narrative, and it completely drops the ball on that. But I assume there are a lot of very happy Nintendo fans out there that think otherwise. In any case, that was fun, I suppose. I hope everybody's excited for Mario Galaxy 2, especially those that want to pirate it. They probably should have made it a Switch 2 exclusive if they wanted to avoid that. In any case, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
From here, I'll introduce the games that will be released as part of the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary. First, the two games you just saw were developed around the idea of what Mario's adventures would be like in space. The planets have